Om Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We are reading from the book Meditation and Spiritual Life by Swami Yatiswarananda. We are starting chapter 29, Reactions to Sadhana. Spiritual life is like an obstacle race. Shreyansi Bahu Vignani. Shreyansi Bahu Vignani. The path to prosperity is full of obstacles, says an Indian proverb. This is all the more true in spiritual life. One of the most distressing things that a spiritual aspirant discovers soon after turning to spiritual life is that this path is full of obstacles and difficulties, and to tread it means undergoing a good deal of suffering. He had turned away from worldly life and had taken to the path of prayer and meditation in the hope of getting supreme peace and fulfillment. He had read about the bliss of meditation, the joy of communion with God that the great saints of world religions seem to have enjoyed. But when he tries to imitate them by practicing meditation for long hours, he finds that he cannot sustain his efforts. At first, everything seemed to go well with him. The aspirant seemed to enjoy his japa, meditation, austerities, etc. But then comes the reactions. People who meditate only for a few minutes a day may not know anything about these reactions. But those sincere aspirants who spend long hours in japa, prayer, and contemplation are sure to face reactions coming from within them and also from without. Meditation is like churning the mind. When we try to concentrate the mind within, we profoundly disturb the unconscious part of the mind. Until we practice meditation, we may not have even noticed the existence of the unconscious. When we try to control it, it rebels, setting up disturbing currents in our mind. These inner disturbances affect our actions and attitude towards others, which in turn invite reactions from the society in which we live. With all these reactions, internal and external, the spiritual aspirant soon finds out that meditative life is not a bed of roses. Very often he finds that he had been happier before he turned to spiritual life. Many are so much discouraged that they stop their practice. Some continue it in a mechanical way out of a sense of duty. Only a rare few forge ahead with tremendous grit and fervor. The conscious building up of our spiritual life is a very difficult task. Tempests are raging within and without, and you must be able to stand both. Then only the building up becomes possible. You all will have to pass through very difficult times during sadhana, and some will fall down by the wayside and be left behind. The troubles will increase for a time. Even outer obstacles in the form of unfavorable reactions from your friends and relatives will grow. Sometimes even the body begins to revolt in every possible way. The mind becomes full of tension and rebellion. The nerves become high-strung. Old tendencies, old memories, old desires get greater strength and want to find expression on the physical plane. If you want to lead a spiritual life, you will have to pass through all these ordeals, through long periods of serious unsettlement, through terrible struggles with our desires and passions before they are subdued. Life then looks like an obstacle race. There are no end of obstacles to be overcome, and no respite is given to us for a long time. Everyone who intensely and sincerely follows the spiritual path will experience all this. Nature of reactions. The little treatise Aparokshanubhuti, supposed to have been written by Shankaracharya, lists the obstacles that arise during sadhana as follows. While practicing samadhi, there appears unavoidably many obstacles, such as lack of inquiry, idleness, desire for sense pleasures, sleep, dullness, distraction, tasting of joy, and the sense of blankness. One who desires the knowledge of Brahman should slowly get rid of such innumerable obstacles. This is from Shankaracharya, Aparokshanubhuti, by verse number 128. Patanjali gives a similar list in his Yoga Sutras. Disease, mental laziness, doubt, lack of enthusiasm, lethargy, clinging to sense enjoyments, false perception, non-attaining concentration, and falling away from the state when obtained are the obstructing distractions. This is from Patanjali Yoga Sutra 1.30, and it says, see the complete works of Swami Vivekananda, Volume 1, published in 1972, page 221. When we examine these lists of obstacles, we notice one important point, and that is, these obstacles are all created by ourselves. They arise within us, and it is no use blaming others for it. They arise at various points of our sadhana. It so happens that after several years of prolonged spiritual struggles, we may get a spiritual experience. It is usually a temporary one, just a quote-unquote glimpse of the inner light. Many people then think that they have attained illumination, that there is no more necessity to purify their minds further. This is a very hasty conclusion, as they themselves will soon find out. Unless all the filth and foulness which have gathered in the mind are removed from its nooks and corners, our problem is not really solved. If some light just enters a room through a chink in the door, and the rest of the room remains filled with darkness and continues to be dirty, nothing is achieved. There is no spiritual illumination if just a tiny bit of light enters our mind and all the dirt and filth lying there is pushed away for the time being into some far off dark corner. In such a case, the man remains just what he was before he had this kind of glimpse. Mere theories and philosophies do not help us in any way, however wonderful they may be. What is essential is the practical application, the sublimation, the removal of all the dirt lying hidden in the dark corners of the mind. The so-called perfect control of all the mental modifications vrittis is not our immediate problem as some people would have it. Trying to stop all the vrittis and make the mind blank will only lead to self-induced sleep in the beginner and not to any form of real illumination. People who talk about the complete stopping of all the mental modifications at the very beginning of their spiritual life do not know what they mean. Causes of reaction. A good deal of the obstacles that beset our spiritual path are created by our careless ways of living. There are people who practice meditation and at the same time indulge in overeating, oversleeping, overwork, or meaningless and untidy work, talking too much or talking nonsense and similar things. Irregular and irresponsible ways of life are incompatible with spiritual aspirations. Those who cannot follow a systematic way of life and regular good habits will find spiritual life impossible. Apart from the above, the most usual cause of adverse reactions that come during sadhana is insufficient mental purity. Most of the people who take to meditative life do not pay serious attention to its moral side. They are so eager to practice meditation that they try to bypass the tedious and uninteresting details of moral discipline. This is especially true in modern times when people have access to books dealing with higher aspects of spiritual life. Meditation, spiritual awakening, the rise of Kundalini, visions, etc. are all very fascinating and appear to be easy. But without strict ethical life, they cannot be attained. And if somebody attains some higher experience by sheer effort, all the old impure tendencies will rise with great force and drag him down, very often to a nasty fall. The mind is full of desires which are drawing it away in all directions. From the depths of the unconscious, various kinds of impulses are constantly rising up, keeping the mind restless. What most of the aspirants do is to control the mind in the midst of all these hidden and open troubles. In the beginning of spiritual life, when the enthusiasm of the aspirant is fresh, he may neglect these mental disturbances, but sooner or later they make themselves felt. And since the earlier enthusiasm would have by then diminished to some extent, these obstacles appear to be all the more strong and violent. The mind is full of desires which are drawing it away in all directions. From the depths of the unconscious, various kinds of impulses are constantly rising up, keeping the mind restless. While what mostly aspirants do is to control the mind in the midst of all these hidden and open troubles. In the beginning of spiritual life, when the enthusiasm of the aspirant is fresh, he may neglect these mental disturbances, but sooner or later they make themselves felt. And since the early enthusiasm would have by then diminished to some extent, these obstacles appear to be all the more strong and violent. Some aspirants, in their spiritual fervor, often suppress even useful and noble aspirations. They have gone to the other extreme of denying even legitimate and normal demands of the human soul for love and compassion and higher intellectual joys. In the beginning of spiritual life, most of the aspirants need the help of good emotions to counteract bad ones. They need the help of studies, devotional music, social service, etc., to counteract their baser passions. By denying the former, they fall a prey to the latter more easily. It is true that even noble and good emotions are also obstacles to the attainment of the highest degree of spiritual experience. But that is a problem only for the advanced aspirant. For the beginner who does not know what even a low degree of spiritual experience means, and who has not got the mental strength that comes from such a direct experience, studies, discharging the duties of life, services to holy men, etc., are necessary for a time. All the religious teachers wisely insist on the aspirants following these. To cut himself off egotistically from all these preliminary helps by relying on false inner strength is dangerous. As long as you have not tasted the bliss of true spiritual experience, the craving for lower pleasures is to be counteracted by some means or other. Meditation alone cannot always do this for a beginner. Of course, the case of aspirants who are endowed with exceptional purity of mind and intense longing for God is different, but such people are rare. A third cause for adverse reactions in sadhana is the aspirants attempting too much. Many aspirants cannot in the beginning practice long hours of contemplation. They don't have the nervous strength to withstand the physical and mental strain caused by prolonged meditation. To make confusion worse confounded, many misguided people attempt too many things at once. In addition to meditation, they try their hand at pranayama, usually without proper guidance, and various forms of austerities. Depriving the body of normal food, rest, and sleep will only add to the strain caused by sitting in one posture for a long time trying to control the mind. The result is exhaustion of mental powers or a nervous breakdown, which often causes serious troubles. The aspirant must be realistic about his own powers, physical and mental. Nervous and high-strung people should not attempt too much meditation all of a sudden. They should go slowly. It is true that there is a small number of aspirants who are endowed with intense aspiration and also tremendous mental strength. But do not try to imitate them blindly. Study your own nature and learn how much of a burden you can bear. Easily excitable people, those who have so many plans running right in their brains, should avoid the temptation to sit and meditate for more than an hour at a stretch. In order to practice long hours of meditation, one needs a cool temperament. Moreover, the brain should be nourished by the observance of strict brahmacharya or continence. Incontinent people will find their brains getting heated up easily. There are other kinds of reactions in the case of aspirants who have already made some progress. The most common is the feeling of dryness or void. After enjoying good meditation for days and perhaps weeks, the aspirant feels that he has suddenly lost all interest in meditation. He finds it difficult to concentrate. He feels he is floating in a void. This is usually a reaction to vivid visualization. If you succeed in intensely visualizing your Ishta Devata and enjoying it for some time, you will feel utterly lost when you find that you cannot visualize anymore. You feel that you have lost contact with the reality of the deity, and this creates great anguish. It is always good to remember in such cases that the inner soul is ever in contact with God, the soul of all souls. Even when your imagination has failed you, you actually have lost nothing. During these dry periods, however trying they are, one should hold on to the center of one's consciousness and practice japa. There is yet another cause of reactions in sadhana, namely the shifting of the center of one's consciousness. Before turning to spiritual life, the consciousness of an average man moves along the lower centers. His normal life is concerned with eating, sleeping, and sense enjoyment. Turning to spiritual life, he finds he can no longer allow himself to be carried away by lower thoughts and activities. He feels the need for higher thoughts, and this means shifting of the center of consciousness. When you try to shift the center of your consciousness to the level of the heart or the head, you find that you cannot hold on to these centers for long. You then find that you have no fixed center of consciousness. This results in profound unsettlement of the mind. To live in the world and deal with objects without any inner reference point is a very disturbing experience. The aspirant finds that he can neither meditate on the deity in a higher center of consciousness nor dwell in the lower centers and enjoy the world as he formerly used to. When the ego consciousness wanders without a fixed point, the aspirant becomes less sure of himself, and then his character and conduct may become unsteady for a time. This is an unavoidable stage in the course of spiritual progress. The problem is how quickly one can overcome this state. Some aspirants continue in this state for a long time, swinging between the sublime and the ridiculous. Some others go back to the old ways permanently and keep their center of consciousness in the lower centers as in former days. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.